have been better if it said shouldn't happen, so.
Right? Can we quote that? Hey, Chief. Funny. I like it. I was like, oh, this is great. I know, right? All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. We'll start as usual with the pledge. Flags up front. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. I think we are not going to have Andy tonight due to a family issue, and I think that we are likely to have John remote, but I don't see him yet. He's on there. We have 3. So we'll wait for him to arrive. We will start as usual by reviewing and signing payroll and accounts payable. Looks like you've got your rec checks there.
Thank you.
For the period ending 7/20/24, we have payroll in the amount of $36,867.55. We have accounts payable in the amount of $12,893.08. Here comes John. We do not have any ACH payments to Swayze, the co-op, or New Hampshire Retirement.
Motion?
You don't need a motion.
Oh, great, just sign it.
Do you need something, Joyce?
Excuse me?
Do you need something?
I was asking Karen if I needed to sign something from the state that you need to.
Hi, John.
I don't know if I was on the
Hello.
signature.
Do you want to do that now? All right, we'll just wait for that to get signed and handed to Joyce, and then we have one more
Yes,
financial
please.
matter. All right, Karen.
I have the paperwork for the bond for the Fuller property. There are 4 copies, there are 4 documents that need to be signed and 4 copies, so I need 16 signatures from each of you for each of this. It is a bond for, the bond proceeds will be for $250,000. The bond obligation is $225,250 because there was a premium of $24,750 that was received. So I can explain to you how that all works and the interest rate if you care to have that information.
Can you give the short version of how the premium works?
So the premium on the loan is, so the debt payment schedule is for $250,000. The true interest rate on the 15-year loan is 3.46%. The premium is given by investors, and it is a premium to reduce the loan that we need to pay back in order to bid using the higher coupon rates. So the interest rate on the $224,000, the $225,250 is 5.1%. But if you average that over the $250,000 that we'll receive in bond proceeds, it makes the interest rate 3.46. If that makes sense.
Okay. Questions about that from the board? So we have to sign all of these, and then Joyce needs to sign as well?
Yes.
What's the term again on the bond?
15 years.
There's 2 tabs on each packet.
The Warren article stated that no bond issued would be of a term of less than 15 years.
So our monthly payment on it?
It is, the annual principal payment is $15,050.
Per month or year?
1 year,
Per year.
And then the interest rate goes down every year.
correct.
And then who signs this tax form? Is this me?
You can sign it. Yep,
And only me, it looks like?
yes.
So I'll take the sign here off of there, or maybe I'll just leave it so it can be completed. All right, this one has a couple extra.
Do you want to see the amortization schedule?
Sure. I think you missed a signature. Jen.
Did I miss one?
Yeah.
Ooh, oof. Not on my A game.
Yeah, I don't know why I have so many.
There you go.
Did I miss another one? Oh my gosh. I shouldn't talk and sign at the same time.
I'm missing a forehead.
Oh, is there a tax one in each thing? I might have missed it on a few of them then. I didn't see it because I was on the other side. The other side.
There you go.
Do you have to sign all the same places I do?
I think so.
Oh, wait, this one? Do we all sign on that?
Who signs the,
No.
Karen? Oh, the last one is just her. Okay, got it, never mind. Here's a complete. Just.
Double check that we signed all the places.
Sure.
Yeah, I think that'll be done after.
You sure it's treasurer? Thank you.
John, we're just signing all the forms for the bond for the conservation property. It's just a lot of signatures.
Sounds good.
You're the bouncer.
Schedule, you don't need to do anything.
No, I know.
Take a picture.
Well, just make it easier to, because the total payment goes down every year. It's not like your mortgage where it's the same all the time until the end. So the principal payment is the same, but the interest is
Yeah.
as opposed to, like, you know, on a mortgage, it like switches.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Stamp.
That's okay.
Legal document. No stamp. And you should check them all too. Just to be sure. The more eyes, the better.
Yes, thank you for double checking them.
You're welcome.
Oh, sorry, I'm still doing it. Like, this is the most busy work we've done.
I know,
Like-
because the consent agenda saves us from some of the signing usually. Anything else for you?
This is mail.
This is the letter of agreement, and you guys voted to sign an amended version last week. And Renell at the bond bank requested one more additional sentence added in the taxation paragraph.
Anything that fundamentally changed it?
No, it's just an exemption on, she wants to make sure that it's explicit on the IRS tax rules, that's all.
Okay, so this is just a slight tweak from what we
Yes.
previously agreed on. Do we need to re-vote on this probably?
I don't think so.
No, because it's just a
Not
tiny,
It's not a substantial change.
okay. 16th day of July. And actually, this looks like this is just me
Yes.
and Becky and Selt. Okay.
there,
I don't know that there are yet, so we'll get those done.
I guess they would have.
Sean could have slept for 15 more minutes.
I know, right?
No, if we have to be here, so to speak. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about non-public in there.
We look good?
Yep.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
I'll take a motion from those present to sign the consent agenda, and then we'll take a motion after that for John to participate remotely.
Motion, second?
In this week's consent agenda are the public minutes from 7/2, the rec manifest, the treasurer's report, and the standard building permits. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll pass the consent agenda. I'll take a motion for John to be remote.
moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Letty? And I'm an aye, so John can participate remotely. Just as a reminder, that means we will have to do roll call votes for any votes because of having a remote member. We will open public comment now at 6:12. As always, please feel free to come forward and comment on any topic of your choosing. We do have a microphone there that you need to push the button to turn it on. And please remember to state your name and your street. Anyone interested in coming up? You can arm wrestle for it. Go ahead.
Just a general question, this will be the first time.
Can you turn the microphone on? Thank you. And name and address, please.
Rebecca Dunham, Block Drive.
Thank you.
A question, is this public comments section, are we holding our comments when board chairs come up to say anything about the candidates?
Yes.
Okay, so it'll happen at
later on the
that time.
agenda.
Okay,
Yep.
that's all I wanted to ask.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Rob Wolfchuk, PBD Drive. I would just like to thank the Select Board and Karen for the quick work on the intersection of South Road and Route 125. That really seems like that happened quickly since the DOT meeting, which was super informative. And as a very frequent user of that intersection, I really appreciate that getting done so quickly.
Yeah, and I think
Thank
a lot of that thanks goes to the Canty family and to a lot of town members who were very vocal, very active in making that happen.
Well, I'd
So
like to thank
we
them,
did just
too.
a small part, so thank you to everybody. Any other public comment?
Liz Faria, South Road. Don't forget it, Janet Stevens, Rep. Janet Stevens, who
Correct.
did most of that as well. I have two questions. One is there any news on the farm on South Road? Really nothing's growing there. I was a little worried that he may be ill or something. Or does anybody know anything?
Which?
Meadows Mirth, the new farm on South Road? Okay.
Don't know.
My other question is, could you explain the current process for the appointments?
We'll go over it before we get to that part of the agenda, sure. Yeah, we've gone over it many times at this meeting, but we
Well, I
will
know,
do it
but
again.
there's some people I know, or
Sure.
at least a couple, that never put in an application and got assigned a job. So I would like to
I
know how
don't
that-
believe that's correct, but we
It's
will go over the
absolutely correct.
process.
I know the person, so it is correct, but it's
Okay.
okay. I just,
If you have information that we don't have, but that is.
you have it because you appointed the person. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Oh, hit it one more time. You just turned it off.
Mark Thompson from North Road. I was involved in the citizens petition for lots 24 and 30, the rural property at 414 Route 125. And there's been a lot of activity on those two properties. As we know, the whole zoning thing was, it's kind of confusing for everyone. And we think it's been confusing for the Rulos. And in that, so the neighbors, about 2 months ago, we were concerned, so I went to see Mr. Greenwood and asked, how do I look into this? I didn't know how we proceeded, and he said to write a letter to the select board. And so we, Tribbiano and I crafted a letter for the neighborhood, and we sent it. And we still have not received a response. Basically, the letter said, basically, we're simply asking for our town to confirm that all the work is being done in accordance with any approved site plans, in accordance with town bylaws, in accordance with town bylaws and zoning for lots 30 and 24, and to determine if commercial trailer storage and commercial work is taking place on the southeastern corner of this residential lot 24, and elsewhere on the eastern border of lot 24. It appears much of the commercial work is on lot 30 and is also on lot 24, but we really can't verify. I mean, we know he has a site work permits for his commercial property, but since the vote and it being turned all residential, it's all kind of pushed into that lot. Now, I can't verify that, but I know it's going on the residential lot. I mean, it's pretty easy to see when you walk over there. He has surveyed the property. His flags are out there. If you look at the maps, it shows the boulders, it shows the buildings. The residential lot comes right down to that AAA building, and all the trailers are over to the left. All those other trailers are up on the hill now and up into that residential lot. He still has a sign out in the street for a trailer rental company, so it's commercial, and it's on the residential property. If that's all okay, that's fine, but the neighbors don't understand that this whole citizens petition was new to us. And it was the first time any of us got involved in town politics. And now we see the activity every day, the dust clouds coming over there, there's heavy equipment over there, they're moving stuff around that brought in gravel. They built a road around in there. That all could be legal, but we just want the families to understand. And Mr. Greenwood said I had to send to ask the select board. Well, I sent that email a month ago, and we've had no response. We asked in our
Email to whom? I'm sorry.
on the website, it says to send it to the town manager. And so I went to Karen. And Kip, and then Kip asked the question to confirm that it was the right lot number, 208-24 and 30. And I emailed back and confirmed that was the lot. I came in the other day to ask where this stood, and basically I was told nothing was gonna be done about it.
Well,
It looks like you have something that you want
we
to
do.
say.
So part of the issue when I spoke to Mr. Thompson last week was we can't verify a boundary. So if it is not evident on which side of the lot that this is occurring on, that's something that is outside of our purview. Last Wednesday, Glenn did go out with Kip, and they did do a site walk. And Jillian just got this memo from Kip.
Oh, great.
I haven't
Good.
read it yet.
We're all gonna read it together.
And just to clarify, we have not seen that email. I don't know if that was rerouted
It was
to
sent a month
Kip.
ago. Your website says not to send it to your email addresses, but to hers.
Yeah, correct. Did it get rerouted?
I did ask Kip to follow up, and then he followed up with Glenn so that they could do a site walk together.
Okay.
That happened on 7/10. They observed one bound but did not see others. The intent of this review was to check on placement of box trailers being used in commercial venture as described on site plan D35181. Any box trailers on the residential lot would have to be privately owned and not used in commercial enterprises. It is recommended that the boundary be more clearly marked. So based off of this, it sounds like it is not clear whether or not the items are on the residential side or on the commercial side. So we can send,
Can you remind me what the vote was? Because I thought the vote
think
was
the-
to make it all
well, the vote
residential.
was to make it all residential, right? But they own two lots that abut each other. One of them is fully commercial and one of them is fully residential.
Oh, okay.
And so we need to verify where
The
is
boundary
that
line
boundary
is.
line is and where these items are being stored and how they're being
It's
used.
confusing because from the zoning maps I saw before, part of lot 24 was kind of commercial before.
It was.
It
yes.
was. It was
So,
split.
so as I understand it, what happened, I mean, and this is all new, we were kind of told what to say when we asked to do the citizens petition. We actually asked for the verbiage from the town because we didn't know, how do we make this residential, bring it back? And inadvertently, asking for all of lot 24, they lost over half an acre or 3/4 of an acre of commercial property is now residential. And that's the same property where they were storing their trailers. Or some of their trailers. It was just down there. And it's actually closest to Dan's house and Rick's house. So it's actually the most, it's just a, anyways, we didn't realize it until afterwards. And that's why Rick and I wanted to let like 3 or 4 months go by, you know, with the death of the father. Mr. Greenwood couldn't comment because he said the lawyers had asked for paperwork on the citizen's petition. So, you know, and I talked to Chris Rullo, and he goes, I can't, because we were interested in purchasing the property. And he goes, I can't talk about it because my lawyer said I can't talk to you. So we've just haven't had any information, and that's why we're just hoping for comment back from you. And that's kind of why I'm here tonight. And I'm glad to see they went out there, and thank you. I need to report back to 6 other families,
Yeah.
and they're the ones asking me. They all have young kids that are busy and working all day, and I'm slowly retiring, so I'm around to help out. So if you could respond to that email with any detail and what the next step is.
Yeah, let us follow up on that, because it sounds like this is evolving and this just happened in the past week.
Yep, so let me check.
Yeah,
in with
because
Glenn tomorrow.
otherwise I'll call Chris again, but I think we really wanted to, because of all the confusion, we really need something, people really look at the maps, that triangle property that kind of is all screwed up. I feel bad for them, but it's just the way it happened, you know, and they may not understand that. And there was obviously some confusion.
Karen, in your mind, what would be the next step here? Follow up with
To
Kip
follow up
and
with the
Glenn
planner
on
and
the
Glenn,
steps?
yes.
Okay.
Can we get a copy of that email along with maybe just a sketch? We must have a sketch showing the lots at
Sure.
issue.
Thank you for bringing it forward,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we
like,
will
when you
let
look
know.
at the map, the old lot 24 was like a rectangle, and now it's like a whole nother triangle that comes off this way on there, and that's where I think the confusion was.
Okay.
So it's, anyways.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for bringing it up. Any other public comment? All right, seeing no further public comment, we will close public comment at 6:22. And then in terms of discussion action items, our first 2 items are ARPA funds requests. And before we bring those folks up, I just want to pause briefly and have a brief discussion with my board about ARPA. We have had a couple of discussions as a board about sort of ARPA planning and the fact that we have $130,000 or so dollars left in ARPA that we need to pledge towards a purpose by December, I'm assuming the last day of the calendar year, right?
That's correct. There's $131,000 remaining that needs to be obligated by the end of this calendar year.
And so the board had talked a little bit about this before, that when we have ARPA requests, that we need to have some sort of a system in terms of looking at the CIP, looking at the requests. And so I wonder how the board feels about that, and if it might make sense for us to set a timeline for all town departments to think about ARPA requests. I don't want us to fall into a trap where we pledge some ARPA without knowing what else is out there. So I just wonder the board's thoughts on how we might best handle this while looking at the CIP, looking at all ARPA requests, and making that decision during budget season by the end of the year. Thoughts from the board?
Yeah, I'd like to see the requests in the totality so we can make some, informed decision. I mean, perhaps
Right.
what cut off by September.
Yeah, I guess we need to decide what kind of cutoff we want to set and how we want that to interface with budget season, right? Because it might impact how we make certain budgets based on if we're going to cover something out of ARPA. We'll start budgets in earnest
After Labor Day.
after Labor Day, so.
Not before.
September-ish, so maybe, would that make sense, Karen, to set a deadline for all departments right around the start of budget season? In terms of if they anticipate any ARPA requests, that we really need to look at them all at once rather than kind of piecemeal?
You could, or you could do them at the second meeting in August, which is August 20th, if you wanted to review them before budget season began.
I'd like to give people maybe a little more time. It's summer. I don't know what you guys think, but
I mean, they've known the ARPA funds have
Yeah.
existed for a long time.
yeah, but we
They've
haven't
known what
give
they-
them a deadline.
Well, they knew the deadline at the end of
Yeah, the deadline's
so-
December, but if we want to give one before that,
Saying September 30th.
would that make sense? Or should we do it a little bit earlier in the budget planning?
I mean, I guess if it's part of the budget process, any big asks that would be made, I would presume would be outside of the operating budget and would be potentially warrant articles, which would not be reviewed until January. So I think that would be a reasonable.
So we have time. Yeah, okay. And of course, I mean, the board could override that if there was an ARPA request that was urgent, that was a safety issue, that was something that the board felt needed immediate funding. Obviously, that's our prerogative, but if some of these are wish list items that are outside of the normal budget, just want to make sure that we have a fair process that isn't sort of first in line gets funded, but that really feels like fair and equitable for everybody. So I heard a suggestion for September 30th. What are the folks? John, do you have any thoughts on that? We can't hear you, John. Are you muted?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Let's get used to this new Teams system. So just one of the things that I'm first of all 100% supportive. I think that's a great idea. I think that we should consider doing that. Second, just on this topic, Jen, as you know, we got a quote this week for a project that we've been talking about on the select board and on the rec committee for quite a while, for what to do with the former Olson Field where the parking lot is, so we could meet some of the needs and requests from the town, specifically the 2 tennis courts and pickleball. So I was hoping that we could potentially look at having that discussion sooner rather than later, so that we could get that project underway before. I mean, if we waited that long, it would not be until next year, I fear.
I think ideally that would be in the bucket with everything else. But if that's more time sensitive, we could certainly adjust our due date if you felt that made, I mean, we're kind of arbitrarily picking September, but we can be flexible. We want to consider everything, but we don't want to, mess up any projects by picking a certain date.
Yeah, I was just thinking with this particular project, I mean, we have been talking about it for quite a while.
Yep.
The dollar figure came in quite a bit lower than we anticipated. While acknowledging it doesn't include the fencing. And so I just see it as like not really a surprise to anybody, and it would be a 50-50 split as we've been discussing with rec impact fees. So that with all associated with all of the timing issues around getting the project going and scheduled for completion before whilst we're still in season, that would be the ideal scenario from my perspective. What
is the rec committee's optimal time frame for that to be considered for ARPA? Is there sort of a time window that it needs to be done in?
We're ready to go when at the earliest convenience.
What does the rest of the board think? Obviously we want to consider everything.
I mean, yeah, I don't feel like we've had a present, like it's been discussed kind of
it hasn't been
tangentially a
presented
lot,
yet.
but it hasn't been presented, and so I feel like that would be.
Do we want to set a slightly earlier?
I was planning to present it. I was planning to present it today, to be honest with you. I just, it seems relevant in this particular
I think it is
discussion,
relevant. I think it needs to fall into that same category with all other requests, so that we're making sure we're weighing everything. So it sounds like maybe, to your point, this ARPA availability is not new news to anybody in this town. So we certainly could move that deadline earlier, Karen, like you said, into the August meeting.
Would the board be opposed? Tonight on the agenda, you have fire, you have library, I have a request, rec has a request. Would you be opposed to hearing all of the information tonight, gathering those requests, and then not voting on them? I can send out an email in the next week or so asking any other departments, saying, hey, last chance, you have a request, get me the information before the August 6th meeting.
Yeah.
The August 6th meeting.
I think they can
Yeah,
absolutely
that's
be
fine.
presented tonight.
And then they can,
100%.
then they have 3 weeks to say whether they want to do that or not.
Right.
And if not, then you vote on the 4 items that you have. in
Would
front
that
of
work,
us.
John? It would be just a couple weeks and then we could decide everything?
Yeah, I think 2 weeks is totally fine. I
Okay.
was just, when we were talking about like late September, that made me a little
Yeah,
nervous
to
about.
Letty's point, this is not new news to anybody in our town departments. Okay.
Great, thanks.
Okay. Sounds good. So first on here, we have Chief, and then we'll have Janice from the library next. So Chief Bird, come on up.
And Chief's request is a loose paper outside of your packet, right underneath your packet.
This one?
Yes, it is that one.
Come
That's
on up.
going on the cover of the town report
We
next
did
year.
get
Stay
some,
tuned.
we did get some comic relief that was sent out by the chief. He said, preparing for tonight's meeting, all wrapped in bubble wrap. He's ready to rock. All right, chief, what do you got for us?
I'm looking to purchase 14 sets of firefighter gear. The new firefighter gear is coming out is PFA. There would be no PFAs other than a couple of things that they can't get it out of the Scotch Light. But the interior linings of these coats that we're wearing now are heavy in PFAs. We're getting very heavy into cancer. Basically, 30 years ago, you died of a heart attack. Now you're dying of a cancer from some form or another. This governor has just recently passed a bill that will get the full-time people screened and hopefully get on a program. Everybody is getting very much sensitive to things. We're not entering buildings without air packs and that type of thing. But you're running around every day. If you're running a call at all, you're running around with this PFA in your gear. The idea behind that is to get at least that out of it and try to start protecting these guys a little better. To be honest with you, I requisitioned the idea from the Exeter Fire Department. They just took their ARPA funds and are purchasing, let me double check, 35 sets for the guys. I came in with 14. What I'm trying to do is get at least the full-time people, my per diems, and the more active call people. At some point, I will be continuing to do that over the next few years as a yearly purchase. Most of the guys, these full-time guys, really should have 2 sets of gear to begin with. You go out and do a fire now, it takes about 2 hours to decontaminate it, which means they're stealing somebody else's offer rack to cover anything that comes in after that. But that's basically what I've got. The price that's quoted on the back is about $200 more than a normal set of gear. The actual price for the gear would be $400 more. So another 200 of that if you actually were buying it singly, but because I was looking to purchase 14 sets, they cut us a deal.
Okay. Let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
What's the age of our current gear, and when would it have needed to be
It
replaced?
varies depending on who
Anyway.
it is. I'm trying, NFPA requires you to get rid of it at the end of 10.
10.
So what I do is I take a look at it, and depending on who's active and so forth, we'll go back through the list, but I'm trying to replace the oldest at the time we're doing it. But this would give these guys at least a second set because they've already got a set, and then they would hang on to that set, and then we'll just continue from there to do it for either somebody new or replacing stuff in the closet type of thing, so we got backup gear. This is not an actual fitted. If you go through a fitted course, this is their stock gear. If you go through a fitted program, it takes about 3 times as long to get it. Don't ask me why. You would think you would take care of the people that are ordering gear, but it's like trucks. If you buy the demo truck, we can get it to you tomorrow, but if you want something and you change a light bulb, it's 6 years down the road type of thing. So this would be stock gear, which pretty much fits everybody. If there's a minor change, it's usually in a pants length, leg length, or a arm length type of thing. He would fit everybody, but he's going to get it as close to possible to that one set.
Okay. And second question, what is in your current budget for equipment, gear, et cetera?
I spent my gear budget. If you remember, we already had that problem over in Epping.
Yes.
We're still waiting to come back at. I've probably got about another 5
Where some of our
left in it.
gear got contaminated
Right.
by chemicals, right?
Right, so we had already spent that.
Okay.
I'm not saying I wouldn't come back looking for a couple more if I had a little bit extra left, because this to me isn't a very important thing. Like I said, we're not in buildings anymore. The day of seeing how dirty you can get and how close you can get to looking like Pigpen without dropping it off behind you is long gone. We go through a gross decon before we even leave, which means everybody gets rinsed down. We take all the heavy particles off it. It gets bagged. They don't even go back in it anymore. It's literally put into bags, so it's not contaminating the trucks. And we bring it back and clean it in the gear washer and the dryer we've got.
Okay, all right.
The
Question. Go
the
ahead, John.
gear washer and the gear washer specifically, Joe, is that hooked up to your leach field?
Yes. As-
We did a lot of work on this on PFAS and PFOA when I was in the Senate, particularly water aquifer contamination as a result of exactly what Joe's talking about, the PFAS, PFOA that are uh, used in fire gear and also used to be, or still sometimes used in firefighting foam. We actually had an issue at the Rockingham County facility, Joe, right, where where there was a big investigation around the PFAS, PFOA over at the nursing home area. Were you familiar with that, Joe?
Yeah, that was the contamination up on the hill, which I still
Yeah.
don't understand. They've shut us off from that, but they got the sheriff
Okay.
up there shooting, and they won't let us use the facility we had, but
So-
they allow the sheriff's department to be up there. So I haven't figured out the difference other than, you know, you go up, smoke the building up, you can do an awful lot of searches and so forth in a building without flowing water. You can charge a line and take a line through a building and at least have the effect of doing something like that. But like I said, that area's been restricted. The sheriff's department does have a shooting range up on the same area, but that's another.
So where I was going with this, just so the board's all on the same page, is every single time they run the decontamination cycle on their gear, they're likely rinsing for those forever chemicals into the aquifer, and those are just virtually impossible to ever clean up effectively. And like Joe said, they're tied to numerous types of cancer. So definitely something that would be a high priority, I think, for not only the firefighters, but the community and in general.
Gotcha.
Sorry, so what,
I think what you're saying, John, is you would support getting PFAS-free gear so that we were reducing how much PFAS we're putting into the water waste at the fire.
filtering?
Well, to protect our firefighters and protect the aquifer. Yeah, I can't see the quote, but I'm not sure I have that one. But
It's like about 3,000
$3,420.22
per.
per set.
Yeah, it's not cheap.
About 48,000 total.
About 40, yeah, about 48,000 total.
Betty, did you have a question?
I did. It says that there are financing options available.
No.
It literally says that on the bottom of this form.
Well, there again, I don't know if you really want to start doing that. You're gonna
What?
spread it out, and then I need 3 more sets next year, and you'd spread that out. and
Well,
then
I
you
was
need-
actually thinking we'd buy more of them.
You want to buy more? That's fine with me.
Buy more and then spread the payments out over more years.
Certainly something we could consider.
That was my question.
Given the conversation that we just had about the finite amount of ARPA, if this was not approved by ARPA, Joe, how would you look to get this funded? Because I think that's helpful
At
for the
some
board.
point, it may be a warrant article or something to that effect, depending on how deep you want to go. It's all up to this board as to how much money they want to spend. I myself, like I said, I'm trying to protect these guys. It's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. We're running through buildings now. If they do, fire marshal comes back in and does a search of a building afterwards, you ask them to come in, they won't walk through it without a mask. We're doing a little bit of cheating because we're taking a meter, walking in and saying, okay, we're clear. We're clear of the carbon monoxide, that type of stuff, but we're not really checking totally for all the contamination. So by rights, you should be doing a complete overhaul on a building, and then either a different style mask or the SCBA.
Okay, so I think the options are, it could go in your budget on your line for next year, or it could be a warrant, or it could be ARPA. Those are sort of the most obvious options.
How many total sets of turnout gear do you need?
Total,
Total.
if I did everybody,
70?
25, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Oh.
20.
Chief,
Well, I'm thinking 30 guys
Yeah,
plus the
30,
full-timers,
right,
2
yeah,
each.
about 30. You're in the same neighborhood. Yes.
Okay, so
could, Can you just explain to me in layperson's terms, like
Sure.
what's the advantage of this equipment versus what is being presently used? I just want to understand what,
The liners and the coats are designed to protect you from the heat. So the original liners for the coats contains heavy amounts of the PFAS. The newer stuff they've come out with has eliminated that from the liner of the coat. This is fairly new. It's been out in the last couple of years type of thing that they've been working on. And that's the difference between the two. So literally what I'm wearing now has got all the PFAS in it. But it would still have it probably in the Scotch Light, but that stuff is a little different. It's not, I don't want to mislead everybody. They wrote it up as it's PFAS free. It's technically not. If you go checking, if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty and you start checking the tags and that type of thing, but it gets the majority of it off your body. So when you're sweating, you're not picking that stuff up and absorbing it through your sweat glands.
And to John's point, it's not then getting rinsed into the leach field of the fire station.
So to
And-
John, oh, go ahead.
and I don't know the answer to this, maybe you do, Chief, but with PFAS, I've heard of it as a drinking water issue, but I've never heard of it as a contact issue. Is that?
That's also part of it. You can pick it up that way because you're opening up your pores and you're picking it up through the gear type of thing.
And Chief, what was when there was PFAS in the retardant foam, was that inhalational exposure? Was that
No, that's
contact
the same thing.
exposure?
That's exposure.
Contact exposure.
The original foam was actually a nasty stuff. It
Sure.
really was.
And that was all like transcutaneous contact exposure. So there's clearly concern there.
Yeah, but the same reason they closed this down up there is because we dumped tons of it
Sure.
up there. Literally, there was what they call a Z pit up there. The pit would lay out in a pattern of a Z, and you would go through and you'd push it either back with a foam or back with a water
Sure.
pattern type of thing. So they dumped quite a bit of it up there over the years.
Okay. Anything else you want to share with us about this? And as per our conversation we just had, we'll bump this till the August meeting, August 6th or August 20th?
I guess it depends how many additional requests you receive, because 8/6, we're gonna try to keep a brief meeting because it's National
Oh,
Night
because
Out.
it's National Night Out. So probably 8:20 would be better, but we'll see. Okay. All right. Anything else you want to share with us other than what we've
I
talked
can't
about?
think of any other questions from you guys.
Okay. So stay tuned and we will put this on the list to consider.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Janice coming up from the library. Hi there.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
Good. So I'm here today to do an ask for ARPA funds or some other funding to accommodate some things that happened with our amphitheater. So we worked really hard in gathering the funds for that project through mostly fundraising. And when we started doing change orders that needed to happen, we tried to mitigate those costs against other costs we were able to cut throughout. But then we got to a point where that was no longer possible. And so in the end, as the project is coming to a close, we are in need of, let me get the amount, $10,605.72. This is mostly due to our project management costs. And back a while ago, we had requested $130,000 in ARPA. That was approved, but then reduced using the additional encumbered funds that we came forward with at the end of the year. If that had not been reduced, we would only be coming to you for $2,700. So given that our change orders totaled $5,758.28 and included some things that would typically be on the town's, say responsibility, but would normally be a town ask. For instance, there was a it's not a drain, let me get the right word.
There's a note here about the replacement of lower basin.
Yeah, the basin.
Was that like a culvert or some sort of drainage?
And also
Yeah, so that
pavement.
had been broken down and they couldn't go forward without fixing it, because it was just eroded to the point of no use. And then the other thought that we had was the paving would have eventually been a town ask, so we absorbed that as part of our project, but, you know, we hope that you will consider that that was a possible reduction for the town in the end.
So what's the total amount of overage,
So
Janice?
the total is $10,605.72.
605.72.
Can you walk me through, I'm having trouble finding that figure in here. Can you just walk me through it?
Yeah, so this is the change orders, but this doesn't include all of the project management and the engineering costs, because that was from a different pool of money. That was the $50,000 we got from the warrant article in 2022, I think. The actual cost of that particular part of the project was $60,000 and some change. So that's really where this amount is coming from.
Okay, so it's not in this.
It's not in there. So when we had originally asked for the ARPA funds, and there was some confusion because I wasn't at a meeting when the decision was made, and Liz McConnell was here, but didn't have all the data because she didn't know she would be speaking to it. And so the decision was made to take the encumbered funds and reduce the ARPA ask. What we really needed was both. We needed the additional encumbered funds to take care of the project management piece.
Right, and we weren't able to encumber that because we didn't have a bill to tie it to at that time.
Yeah.
And we knew that. It was sort of a technicality why that couldn't be encumbered, even though you had a little extra money in your budget.
Can we see that though? Because I'm what you're talking about.
Do I have
Or
this?
it doesn't have to be this moment, but
I do, I have all the
Before we-
invoices from that particular piece of it. And Karen, would your sorry, my brain. Would your spreadsheet help there, or do you need the actual invoices? You know, of the bills that you
a
paid?
spreadsheet would be fine. I just want to be able to put my hand on
Yeah,
where that.
The dollar amount.
Yeah.
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 Were all of these signed all of these change orders signed appropriately by the
Yes.
people that needed to sign them?
Yep, and I actually have those here. I
It
just didn't.
doesn't, it's just
Yes.
page 1 of 2.
They were.
You didn't, that's fine. There's an entry on one of them paying for jackhammering a concrete slab at the front entry. I thought we already paid for all of that new ramp and step stuff.
No, that was different. There was some work that had to be done for the amphitheater because of that entryway part, not the actual stairs and ramp.
The paved area.
This was the pavement and the front part,
Okay.
yeah. And what that was they had anticipated being able to just do it, the whole project in one way, but when they got to that section, the concrete was so thick that they actually had to jackhammer it out.
I gotcha.
Okay. And just to clarify, Janice, so the actual physical project came in on budget and 100% of this overage is project management costs, or is it some of both?
$69.38 is overage on the project.
Wow, okay.
Because we have $6,000 through the Friends. still.
Okay.
So
So there was a little bit of overage on the project, but
tiny
it
bit of
was
overage on the project.
99% covered by a donation from the Friends. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So the remainder of that 10,600 is mostly project management to your project manager. Okay.
Yes.
Karen, question for you. If we were not going to fund this out of ARPA, is there any other funding source that would make sense to cover this project overage? Or is this really the only feasible option?
The only other way to pay for this is because the library receives a quarterly payment would be out of their own quarterly payments,
Out of the regular budget?
out of their regular budget.
And right now, we are at exactly
Exact
where we need
percentage.
to be right now, percentage-wise for the year. we have no wiggle room. So,
Are they allowed to overspend their line or no? Just because it works different than other departments, I
We
guess.
act basically as a payroll vendor for the library, so we pay their salaries out of their budget, and then we cut them a check once a quarter for them to pay their bills.
So we
so
have
I
no way to
guess-
give them any extra money? Like, it's not like when we do some other things and we're just like, yep, you can make that.
We can move stuff around.
Just looking at the bottom line number doesn't work for libraries, basically what it sounds like.
I guess I see it differently, just because they pay all of their bills
Mhm.
separately from the town.
But I think what Letty is asking is,
Right.
let's say they pay this out of their budget, and then they come to the end of the year and they're $10,000 over their budget. Does the select board have the prerogative to
I think you
cover
could-
that out of the general fund?
I
if we
think you
need
could
to?
still do that out of your operating budget if that's what you chose to do.
So we do have that ability. It would just be,
I wasn't sure
it would
just
be
because,
done a
like, you
little
were saying it is
differently.
different
We'd
than-
have to actually like cut them a check as opposed to just paying it out of our general fund, because they pay their own bills instead of us, right? That's the difference. It's just like a middleman effect. So that would be, so just like I asked the chief, that would be the backup plan if this doesn't get covered by ARPA, would be to absorb it in your budget and then wait and see how your budget flushes out at the end of the year.
they're going back to fundraising, but I think we've
Or, yeah.
topped this town pretty well.
Yeah, you definitely have. You
I
have done a lot of
hesitate to think that
fundraising.
we would go back, but obviously we need to pay our bills.
Yep.
And, you know, this is an ask, we know you can say yes or no.
Yeah.
But we're just hopeful that, you know, because we really did try to work very tightly
Yeah.
with everybody to make this fit. And I think in the end, if you see the final results and the work that was done, the amount of this project is not exorbitant in my mind.
Yeah, no, it looks
I
beautiful.
think I think it was a really good fit and came in under time and.
Yeah.
So,
And thank you to the Friends for helping you cover the little bit of overage that you had on project costs. That's really
Yeah,
nice
it's
of that
funny-
organization.
yeah.
Great.
So-
Okay, so we will, same thing as with the chief's request, we'll put this into the group of requests and we will let you know.
All right.
Okay.
I appreciate that very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next on the list, we have to approve the postings for subcommittee appointments for energy and regional associations. And we have those in our packet. I don't know if there's anybody here from those departments or those committees, who wants to speak to them, or if we're just going to read them. Is there anybody who here for energy or regional associations that wants to speak to these? I know Becky's here. Okay, okay.
Rick is not here tonight for the energy posting. There's no significant changes to the postings that we've used in the past. This is to fill 2 positions for the alternate role.
That's what's open right now.
Yes,
2
and
alternates.
then potentially, we have 1 resignation, I think, forthcoming, so it may be 1 full member and 1 alternate position. But regardless, 2 positions.
So they may bump an alternate.
They might bump an alternate,
Okay.
yes.
And I read this over and didn't see any concerns. Did any board members have any edits or concerns with this posting for what that committee is looking for? If not, I'll take a motion to approve to post this.
Moved.
Second.
And we'll take a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Paul? Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll go ahead and post this. And what's the time frame that we are putting these up for? What's the
30
due
days.
date? 30 days? The term, I think the Energy Committee did they have terms, or did we leave that open-ended?
We left that open-ended
will-
depending on the
I
project.
think they're open-ended. Okay. Next is Regional Association. I don't think this has significantly changed from the past. This has been a long-standing committee that has up to 5 voting members and 1 alternate. What is the anticipated opening for this?
Same, 30
Same,
days.
30 days. And what positions are going to be posted? Is this full members, alternates?
2
both?
members and 1 alternate.
2 members and 1 alternate. Any board members have questions, concerns, or edits on this posting?
Realize you have to be a US citizen.
Is that just for this committee or is that a general?
It's
I think
on
that's a
all of the
general
postings.
requirement, yeah. Same with the 18 years of age. Any concerns? If not, I'll take a motion.
Moved.
Second.
And we'll take a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Paul? Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll post those two for the 30-day period. And then I had inquired with Karen. We're now moving on to reviewing the statements of interest. We have some upcoming. So rec is scheduled to likely be on 8/6 and cemetery on 8/20. So those are the ones that are not happening tonight. And then, of course, the two that we just approved, energy and regional associations, will be scheduled probably, I don't know if that will be on 8/20 or if that will be slightly later. We can decide that once we get all our applicants for that. Okay. Next, we'll move on to review statements of interest, and per Liz's request, we will review the process. So about, I don't know, 12 to 18 months ago, this board changed our process in an effort to make applying for boards and subcommittees more transparent, more open, more publicized to the community. The Communications Committee helped us come up with these one-page applicant sheets to which many people append extra information to make it standardized, to make it very clear what you're applying for and what the boards are looking for. We have taken to posting the posts on the town website, the Facebook page, and in asking people who are currently on committees to reapply when their term is up, so as to put sort of everybody on a level playing field if there's other in the community that are interested. So that process has been in place for over a year and has been working fairly well, and we've seen some new people from the community step up and ask to be appointed. The change that we made this year was two things. One was to try to standardize the timing of all boards because there was a lot of confusion and different dates about when terms were up. Some were March, some were June, some were July, some were December, and it was a little chaotic and hard to keep track of. So we're trying to clean up the process and get all of the committees to have their open seats turn over around the same time of the year. We picked the summer because that's after the new select board has gotten seated and then settled in. And so that is our plan. We're doing a little bit of catch up this year because obviously this process is new, but our hope is to do that, I believe, in July, Karen, right? That's how we amended the policy. So we officially amended the policy on doing that. The other change that we made is, once again, in the hopes of transparency and collaboration, is that rather than have the committees have a separate meeting where they make a separate vote on recommendations, to do that collaboratively and to have a joint discussion, the select board has always been the appointing authority, and we thought it made more sense, rather than doing two votes in series, to move that to be a parallel discussion so that we can pick the most appropriate people. So really, we haven't changed anything that significantly, just kind of tweaked the process in the hope of making everything more transparent, more collaborative, and more public-facing, and also with the hope of getting some new interested folks involved. And so far, it seems to be going fairly well. We can tweak it at any point. We likely will if something is not working well, but that is the current status. I don't know if any board members want to clarify anything I said, but I think that's
That was a
all
good
our
summary.
joint understanding of what we're doing here. Sound good?
Good summary.
Okay, that's the summary. So what we have, Paula's like, sounds good. So what we have for tonight is we have zoning, library alternates, trustee of trust funds, and conservation. And we will start with zoning. For zoning, we have applications from Doug Cowie and Ken Christensen. Those are both renewal for full voting members. We also have an application from Jack Garber as an alternate. And then my understanding is we have Regan Elliott and Frank Albert as active members who are still serving and not up for reappointment.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. One clarification I had is, I don't know if Jack Garber is here tonight?
Yes.
Hi. Are you definitely applying as an alternate, or might you be interested in being a full voting member? Because ideally, we'd love 5 voting members. Gotcha. Okay, so you're flexible. Perfect, wonderful. So sounds like we potentially have 3 applicants for full members, which would get us up to a full quorum of 5 on the ZBA. So we have those folks here tonight. So since I just put Jack on the spotlight, Jack, do you want to come on up first and pop right there? You can click that microphone on. And if we've all read your application, and if there's anything that you want to add, or if the board members have any questions for you, we will start there.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything you'd like to say to the board?
I just would say that I take this very seriously and as a former lawyer, and I recognize that there is a latent liability to the actions on the part of the zoning board, and I think it's real important that the members do understand that towns are being sued as a result of the actions of zoning boards. And so it's something I appreciate and would protect the town.
Thank you. Any board members have any questions for Jack? We very much appreciate your willingness to serve and agree with you completely. And that's one of the reasons we actually made a change in the past year or so and pulled the select board member out as a voting member because of some potential conflicts of interest. So we certainly would love to populate that committee with 5 people that are full voting members that are not a select board rep because of the potential conflict there. So appreciate your willingness to step up to full member. Okay, so that is Jack. Any other questions for Jack before we let him step down? Okay, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. And then we've got either Ken or Doug. Who wants to come up? Doug, I see you right there. You want to come up? We've all got Doug Cowie's applicant here. Doug, how long have you been on ZBA? Can you count?
I've been on almost every board in the
I know
town
you have.
except for the fire.
You probably can't keep it straight.
I'm sorry, the police department, and the cemetery. So, and I've never kept that close.
You're like, a long time.
Yeah.
Any comments that you want to make to the board?
Part of living in a smaller town.
Smallish.
is participating. I grew up, or I won't say I ever grew up, but I spent a lot of my formative years in northern Maine, Greenville, Maine, Moosehead Lake, small town, quintessential. My parents were not active in town government, but they were active and well-known around the town, and it's contagious. And I'm just a firm believer in being part of whatever.
Wonderful. Sounds great. Board members have any questions for Doug? I think we all know Doug pretty well.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And I don't know, is Ken here?
Ken was not able to be here
Okay.
tonight.
Okay.
He did serve on the ZBA for 9 years. He
Yep.
was a select board member. He's been on budget committee. Still lives in town. Very much wants to volunteer still.
Wonderful. And remind me, the current chair is Ken?
Doug.
Doug? Doug, as the chair, would you like to make any recommendations to the select board in terms of who you would like to see on the board? Are these 3 people sound like a good group to you? Yeah. Okay, I'm hearing a yes. I love it. I love it. So we have in front of us applications from Ken Christensen, Doug Cowie, and Jack Garber for full voting members. That would be filling 3 open positions and getting us up to a full quorum of 5. It would mean that we do not currently have an alternate, so we could certainly consider reposting in the future for alternates. But I will take any comments and/or motions for those 3 members.
Move the slate.
Second. Just point of order, I think one of them needs to have a different term ending. Is that right?
So I think we certainly could consider that because we would have 3 out of the 5 on 1 year and 2 out of the 5 on the following year. Right, do you have that little spreadsheet
I have that
up?
spreadsheet open.
Yeah, that's why I brought my computer, but I'll let you speak to that.
So it looks like, yeah, there's 2 people that would expire in 2025, and then the other 3 would be in 2027.
7.
So unless we put one of them for 2026.
So do you want to do Ken and Doug for 3 years and do Jack for 2?
Sure.
Mr. Chair,
that
do you
good?
feel like that would be better for the health of the committee to separate the expiring terms a little bit? How do you feel about it? He's like, I
So
hope
will
it won't be an issue. Right. So you don't feel strongly about it one way or the other? We just
Okay.
want people to stay happy. Karen, what are you looking at there? Oh, you're just looking at the printout. Anyone on the board feel strongly about it? I think the 3 and 2 is not terrible, but if anybody wants to modify it, we could get a little more staggering in there. Is there any statutory requirement, or are we allowed to modify terms? Sometimes there's a statutory guideline for what the term has to be.
I mean, the last person, this would be to fill that last seat, but I think it would make sense for it to be 2, 2, and 1.
2, 2, and, okay, meaning put one
Meaning
person
put
in a
one,
different
yeah.
year. Okay. Is the board in favor of doing that?
Mhm.
Paul? Paul's a shrug. John's a yes. Yeah, it's, I mean, if people are interested in continuing to serve, it's really a moot point, but it does allow the turnover to be a little bit more spread out. Okay. Jack, would you be okay with that? Okay, so it looks like everyone would be okay. So we have a motion to move the slate, but to have Jack Garber have a 2-year term and the other 2 a 3-year term. So we have a motion, I believe we had
Second.
a second, and we'll take a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Aye. Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So thank you, gentlemen, and we will seat the 3 of you on ZBA, and we will have a fully staffed ZBA. So thank you so much for your willingness to serve your community.
So so those will end June 30th, 20? What did we?
Let me check with Karen exactly what it said on the policy. We'll
I don't
check with
remember.
her.
I don't.
Yeah,
That's why I'm asking.
just to make sure we get.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah? Yeah? Yeah.
Well, if you've got a quorum, you should be good to go, because we're going to get him appointed for you.
You won't be ready because we got to post the legal notice.
Karen, are we going to sign reappointment slips tonight? Are we?
Yeah, but that sounds like that's not the issue.
We need to post the legal notice for the continued hearing.
Oh, okay, yes.
How long does it have to be posted for?
I think 10 days, is that right? I'm not sure off the top of my head for ZBA. I'd have to look at the statute.
But we should have no problem having their appointment slips signed.
Their appointment slips don't need to be signed by you folks, because these are just regular. Oh, those never mind. These are not subcommittees. Yes.
So we can sign those next week?
You can send them in as part
or-
of your consent agenda as long as you've made that motion tonight. I can
Oh, yeah,
just-
because we made the motion to accept.
Yeah.
them, So.
So that's not the holdup here.
Part of the consent agenda.
Okay. All right.
Hold on, so you can't have a meeting next Monday.
Right.
Because your agenda wasn't posted 10 days in advance as legal notice.
Right.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. You had 4 members. You had 4. So 4 was enough.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, you just have to follow the statutory guidelines of the
So I would just-
publication.
We're
I would
working on it.
I would just post it for the 29th, the week after. Why not?
As soon as you can legally hold it, you can hold it. And you hopefully will have a nice quorum for your committee.
Maybe all 5 even. All right, so what's next?
Next is library trustee alternates. And as the board remembers, this board appoints the alternates, whereas the full members have a different process. We have 4 applicants for 3 positions, and we have 1 alternate who is stepping down. The 2 other current alternates are reapplying. So we have 2 reapplications, which is Sue Lunn and Leanne Kane Dalton. And then we have 2 new applicants, which is Jennifer Bordis and Lois DeYoung.
For how many positions?
We have 4 for 3 for this. So we will start at the top of my list, as I have it written, is Jennifer Bordis here. I don't know if she was able to make it. I know not everybody's able to make it in the summer. So looks like not, but we have her application here. Sue Lunn, was Sue Lunn able to be here? No, okay. And then we have Lois DeYoung. Didn't see Lois. She's out of town. It's hard in the summer. We know a lot of these people. And then Leanne Kane. Gotcha. So no one was able to be here, which I get. It's can be hard during the summer. Do we have anyone from the library board that would like to speak to their thoughts on best applicants for this position in conjunction with the board? Yes. Come on up, please.
Whatever.
Hi there.
Hi. Name and address.
Melody Santos, 7 Old Gordon Road.
Thank you.
So I'm the Board of Trustees co-chair, and the 3 recommendations we have, that's what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the 3 recommendations we have are the 2, what would you say, incumbent, Sue and Leanne. And then for the 3rd position, Jen Bordis. And I'm happy to elaborate on that if you want more information.
So Sue and Leanne have been alternates for 1 year or for longer?
Leanne is 1 full year, Sue
Yep.
is longer.
Longer, okay. And how often do you guys pull alternates up to be voting members?
Not often.
Not too often?
No, we're a pretty solid board right now. We're able to go to meetings and have a quorum and things of that nature.
What's the attendance of your alternates usually look like? Is it pretty good?
Yeah, Sue is pretty solid because she lives,
Like right on the corner? Right?
yeah, I didn't know if I could say that actually.
So she lives close by.
She lives close by, so she's able to make meetings. And then Leanne has a busy teaching schedule, but she is able to step in and attend meetings as well.
Okay. And then Jennifer Bordis, is that somebody that you guys spoke with or interfaced with? I know she has a really interesting sort of teacher resume. Any thoughts on what she would bring to the group?
Absolutely. I don't know her personally. What I saw in her background that I liked is the heavy use of working with children and individuals with developmental disabilities. I think we're always looking to remain accessible. We are going to have some website audits we're going to have to do in terms of making that website accessible. I think the whole town is going to have to do that if I'm understanding correctly. So someone who has that experience working with intellectuals with disabilities is someone that would be pretty valuable to our board. The fact that it's children with disabilities as well, we're a pretty heavy youth-focused library. And Kiki does an amazing job in the youth department. She has a dual role of assistant director and youth librarian, so someone that can always help with that expertise of what's the best way to serve all the youth in the community, I think is really important to us. And that's knowledge that not our current board members don't all possess off the top of their head.
Okay. Board member questions, thoughts, or comments for Melody or for board discussion?
Yeah, I just think, given the short window, we should probably defer until we have the applicants here.
We can, we don't have to, but we can if the board majority feels that that's what they would like to do.
Especially because it's summer, I don't know how long it would be until we could get them here.
They were all invited to attend. They were all aware.
Yeah, I think that's up to us. I mean, certainly I think it's pretty hard to get all these people here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to make a motion to that effect, we can discuss it as a board, definitely.
Yeah, the 2 at issue, aren't here, right?
True. If you if we were going to continue it and you felt the need to keep alternates during that continuance window, that would need to be, you could have the option of just waiting and be alternate-less for a period of time. Correct. Correct. So Paul, do you want to make any motions relative to your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd move to defer until the next select board meeting. Just give people that chance, given
Okay.
the timeframe.
Okay. Do we have a
I think
second?
there's someone in the audience wants to suggest something. Can the chair?
We're really not taking public comment right now, honestly. Sure.
Is
It's been the process since last year that we've invited people to come in person. Some people choose to come in person, some people are unavailable, so we have made votes in the past without people present. But in general, people try to get here when they can. But we understand that it's not always possible, which is why they send detailed applications.
It's nowhere on the application or the posting that it's highly encouraged or required.
Karen, do you want to speak to that? Is it a general understanding that this is the process?
I think that's the understanding, but it doesn't, I don't post the following agenda date.
We could
and when
certainly
it would be
clarify that,
discussed.
to your point. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing, that's a good idea. To be as, make sure that everyone understands the process to the fullest extent. Yep. Okay. So we have a motion on the table to delay this vote. Do we have a second? Looks like we have no second. My thought on this is it sometimes will be hard to get all folks here. And if we continue all votes, whenever that happens, it will make the process scattered again, which is what we were trying to avoid in getting these all done at the same time. And so that is why I would be in favor of us moving forward. And I don't see a second, so we will do so if there is a motion to move forward.
Just to that, I would feel differently if like one of them were here, but none of them are here. So it's at least equal.
Sure. Yep, I hear you. Anyone interested in making any kind of motions?
Yeah, do we just pick, how many do you use? Three? Three.
3, correct. Yep, Jennifer Bordis, Sue Lunn, Lois DeYoung, and Leanne Kane, who I think also sometimes goes by Leanne Dalton.
Yes.
Well, I'm good with moving the suggested slate from Melody.
The slate being Jennifer Bordis, Sue Lunn, and Leanne Kane. So we have a motion for that slate. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll take a roll call vote. John?
All right.
Paul?
I abstain.
Okay. Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we'll move forward with those. I'd like to thank Lois DeYoung for applying and note that she is a very active member of the Friends and is very involved with the library and will continue to be so. And so we already have her on that kind of team of helpers, and she will continue to be so. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time.
Can you just come up, just so that John can't hear you unless you're talking into a microphone, and it also doesn't record unless you're talking into a microphone.
Yeah, so just quickly, we appreciate Lois's application and her enthusiasm. We also hope that she continues with our Friends group because she's done some amazing things. And I know one of her concerns is senior programming, so I would like to personally invite her to work with me to give me suggestions and ideas that she might have that I can work on perhaps putting into place.
Sure.
It's really not the role of a trustee to do that anyway, so I think her position being a patron and a friend puts her in a much stronger position to be able to do that anyway.
Great. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Next, we have trustees of the trust funds, and there are 3 full members, none of whom are up for reappointment. What we have as an opening for tonight is an alternate. This is a relatively newly created position that I want to say we created just this a couple of months ago.
Correct.
At Bill Dunham's request that it would be a good idea to have an alternate. We have 1 application for 1 alternate opening, and that applicant is Linda Gary. And I didn't see, oh, Linda is here. Come on up. She was hiding in the back. That's okay. We have your letter that you wrote, but if there's anything that you'd like to clarify or speak to the board, please let us know.
I think my application was pretty straightforward. I'm Linda Gary. I've lived in Brentwood since 2009, served on several other boards in the past. I think my background is uniquely qualified to be of assistance to the trustee of the trust funds. I've been a lawyer. I did a lot of charitable work, a lot of work with donor intent and making sure funds are expended appropriately. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Any board members have questions for Linda? And do we have anyone here from trustees of the trust funds?
I don't believe
think
so.
so. Have you heard any feedback from them?
I have not.
Okay. I know they were very interested in having an alternate just to potentially help out and learn and make sure they had some continuation if there's any turnover on that committee.
And Linda submitted her application in February when this originally was posted, and I haven't received any additional interest since.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good. Any board member questions or comments?
I would happily move Linda.
Okay.
This
I can
application.
move Linda, or I'll second that, but then I have a question that's
Sure.
related but not related.
Do you need to ask that question now before we vote or separate?
Nope.
Separate? Okay, we have a motion and a second to move Linda for the alternate position. John?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so welcome to the trustees of the trust funds, and thank you for applying. And thank you for your patience as we reworked the timing a little bit.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The spreadsheet says that one of the current members' term has expired.
The current members are elected.
Okay.
The only alternate is the only,
Okay, you might want to check that.
So
because
maybe hasn't been updated
maybe,
after the election?
maybe.
Yeah, because that should be on the up and up. All right, last we have Conservation Committee. And for Conservation, we have 2 full voting member openings. If my understanding is correct, and Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, we have had 1 full voting member step off. Yes. So that's 1 opening. And then the other opening is Andy LaRoche's term, which is now termed, and he has applied for reappointment. So we have 2 full voting members, and I believe 3 alternates that we're discussing tonight. And unless there's been any changes, the applications that we have before us was 3 full voting member applications and 3 alternates. So the first would be choose 2 of 3, and the second would be 3 of 3. Is that your current understanding? How do you want to proceed? Go through the member applicants first? I think that would be reasonable, which probably to do the full members first. So what it looks like to me is we have 2, this gets a little funny because we have 2 current alternates who are applying for full voting member. That's Rob Wolfchuck and Michelle Sudet. And then we have Andy LaRoche, who is for reappointment. Is that correct? Yes. So those 3 positions. Okay, so we have, if everybody has those in front of them, and then separate out, we have Doug Cowie, Heather Dudley Tatum, and Emma Leham for alternates. Sure, come on up.
I worked with someone, Becky Dunham, Block Drive, Chair of Conservation. I worked with someone at Exeter once, the principal, who used the term, she had a blessings, an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah.
Which I think Conservation has had in the last 2 rounds.
Sure.
We've had more applicants for the open positions than before. So having received the complete list of who was applying for which position yesterday, it gave just about 24 hours to think about how this would unfold. I do not want to lose anyone, any of the candidates. So in conversation, talking with individuals, a suggestion was made and a conversation was held with one of the full-time applicants who would be willing to move to an alternate position.
Oh, okay.
To retain that knowledge and that experience.
Okay.
So that would lower the number of full-time applicants to 2, filling 2 positions.
2 for 2?
Yes, and
Okay.
that would replace one of the alternates moving up. So we would have a balance.
Okay. And who is that member who would be willing to be flexible?
That is Andy.
Andy,
Yes.
okay. Okay. So is that an official status at this point? Oh, okay. So we would have 2 applicants for 2 voting members.
Yes.
And then 4 applicants and that would be perfectly appropriate because
It
you're
would
going to lose
balance.
2 alternates
Correct. It
anyways
would
in this
balance out.
process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. That way we could appoint every single person who has an application in front of us.
When you're thinking of that as you do your vote, since all these people would be You appointed 2 alternates a couple of months ago,
Correct.
January, and their terms were only 1 year. They should have been 3
Right.
years. So it looks like we might have everyone expiring at the same time unless you stagger them.
We will.
Right.
We have to do some
We will.
mathematics to figure out how
Right.
to stagger that.
And given that, Karen, what's the best way to do that, given that the statute says it's a 3-year alternate term? Or Becky, I don't know if you've thought about that. I mean, we want to honor the
I have
statute.
a thought.
If-
Okay, Letty has a
If
thought.
Patrick and Rob were appointed to, should have been 3-year terms, their
Yep.
terms would have expired in 27.
I think that's right, yeah.
So would Andy be taking Rob's place? So Andy and Patrick should be 27.
Or you could just reappoint him, you could appoint him to a 3-year term, and that would
Yeah,
stagger him
yeah,
automatically.
Yeah. So that's
one way around
swirling
that.
around in my brain right now. I
Gotcha.
haven't figured that out. So once we get through the
Gotcha.
acceptance, let's work on
Yep.
terms.
Okay.
And the other complication is that the members' terms are not staggered. There's one person whose term expires in 26, 3 in 25. So we need
Okay.
to move 125 to another term,
Okay.
another, I don't know what that term.
Letty, what were your thoughts on how to best stagger and respect the statute as much as possible?
Well, because some of them are moving from an alternate to a full
Yes.
position, you could say that these people are taking over their terms, and so we could use that as a wiggle room to
Right.
fix some of the dates.
Right. And so how would that work? So if we've got Rob and Michelle both moving up, then
Rob would have been a 27.
he would have been a 27, and how
No,
about,
Patrick should be.
His form was only signed until 25.
Because
right,
it
but that
should
was
have
an
been-
error. It should have been 3 years statutorily, but we made an error at that point.
Okay.
So he would have been a 27. What would Michelle have been?
Hers was blank.
Hers,
It was this year, I think, but it was
Yes.
blank, but it didn't have a,
it didn't have, she had no date on her expiration.
Right, this was part of what we're
Yes,
trying to clean up
yes.
here. Okay, so she had an open-ended term.
And Doug was 24, but
Doug was
no month,
24,
I
so he
believe.
should have been a 27.
Yeah. Oh,
Right, if he's reappointed right now,
Yeah.
then it should go to 27.
So we'll definitely still
Was
have
his
some
24
overlap then.
correct, though, or should it have been for more, like, when was he?
His was correct for 24.
24.
Okay.
So if you do Andy taking over Rob for 27, Doug for 27, then you have
But they'll all
Patrick
be
as
20.
25,
well, now you're making everyone a 27.
and then do
Yeah,
Emma
everyone will be
and Heather for
27.
26. Then you'll have 2, 2, and 1,
Say that again, I'm sorry.
2, 2, and 1.
right? So if you move Rob to 20,
No, you
Well,
moved,
Rob would become a full
so
member
Rob is a
with a
full
3-year term.
member. Andy takes Andy
20.
does a 3-year term for 27.
okay.
Doug Cowie does a 3-year term for 27.
27.
Then you have Patrick,
He should have been a
Coming up.
27.
So we have 3
but his slip is signed for 25. And then you have 2 other seats that you have to sign tonight. So if you do Emma and Heather for 26, you'll have 1 for 25, 2 for 26, and 2 for 27.
Oh, so you're suggesting leave Patrick's and then just have him
Yes.
reapply if he wants to continue
Yes.
Oh,
next year?
If you're treating Rob, if Rob and Patrick were applying for the same 3-year, at the same time for 3 years, they should both be 27.
Either way, it sounds like we're gonna
I
have to
think,
bend the
I
statute
think
a
you were
little.
more saying that we're filling Rob's spot.
Yes.
So Patrick is
But Patrick
the
and
same.
Rob were the same.
Patrick is the same body.
So we can leave, so then if that's what you're,
No, no,
doing, then
I-
Andy goes 25. And one
No,
of these is,
I agree with what you're saying.
Say-
Okay.
Repeat the years again.
okay,
I'm
so then Emma and
confused.
Heather are 26.
Can I just clarify? So
Yep.
the New Hampshire statute says these are 3-year terms.
Right.
Are we all in agreement that we're gonna bend that a little bit and all be in agreement about that to try to get the proper staggering? Because that's what we're gonna have to do.
Yes, we're doing.
Okay.
Right, because you can't just keep doing 3 years.
Right.
and-
Exactly.
As chair of the
Exactly.
committee, you're comfortable with us making a one-time massaging of the terms?
Yes.
Okay,
Heather and
good.
Emma to be 26.
I think
Okay.
as long as it's less than 3 years, right?
And,
Yeah, we can just do
Because-
somebody for a shorter term.
right, and if
Okay.
So have,
Patrick and Rob both were appointed 1 year only in error,
we're
they
leaving-
should have been 27.
we're leaving Patrick at 25.
We can just say that we can not worry about what Rob's doing. Just take that line out completely, and we're just gonna appoint a person in that alternate spot for 2 years.
Can I make a suggestion?
3 years?
3 years.
Can I make a suggestion? as
course. Yeah.
Chair? I would like Doug to be a 25. Thank you, Doug. And then have Patrick and Andy be 27s.
We can do
We-
whatever, I mean, it really doesn't matter,
That means
right?
Patrick
That
has to
staggers
sign a
it.
new form, I think.
Does Patrick want to be on until
Yes.
27?
Yes, he does.
He does?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was one of the people who raised the issue with me that it should have been a 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it
But
sort of
then
doesn't matter because if these
except
people want to
his-
reapply, they'll
Except his
reapply.
form is gonna be wrong then.
We'd have to, I mean, we have to adjust the form anyway, either way. I mean, if we change his term, we have to readjust his form, or we're gonna edit these people's forms. Either way, it doesn't really matter.
We can't edit people's forms.
We can reappoint him with a
Yes.
different.
Oh, I
end
guess
date.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We can't
We
just
can give him a
change the-
new form.
We can't just change the number.
Correct. No, we're not gonna white it out. We'll take, we will officially change his form.
So if, with Doug's permission, Doug would be 25, Heather and Emma 26, and Patrick and
Doug,
Andy 27.
26.
No, she moves up. I'm
She's
just
gonna
talking
move
about
up.
alternates. I'm just talking about alternates. She's moving
Michelle and Rob would
She's
both
Can
move
we-
up.
up.
Can I make a motion to approve the people?
Sure.
Just
Let's
so we
do
know-
the
I don't want to
full-
forget, I don't want to
Yeah.
forget that in all
Yeah.
of this number
Yep.
talk.
Yep. And Becky, what I'm hearing from all of your comments is that you are very happy with all of these applicants and looking for us
Extremely happy,
to retain
yes.
all
Yes.
6 of these applicants.
Since
Great.
we have a lot of our plate right now with
Yep.
the bond and other projects we're working on, I'd like the continuity.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I would just add as the liaison that I think the committee is doing a remarkable job from, comments that I had heard, previous, from 6, 7 months ago or longer. And it really is an excellent group. So all of these people who are applying, I would fully support.
And I did, when I spoke to Doug today, I said, you were so modest, you didn't list the work that you had done on conservation in the last year and a half. So I want to recognize that he has been active with projects and assignments.
Duly noted. All right, so Letty, I will take a motion for full members if you're interested in doing that.
Motion for Michelle Suda and Rob Wolfchuk.
Do we have a second?
Yes, second.
And do we still have John? John, do we still have you? We lost your face.
No, I'm here. My internet was getting
Okay.
slow.
We have a motion and a second for Rob Wolfchuk and Michelle Sudet to go up to full voting members. Would you like to vote on that?
Oh, sure. Hi. Sorry, I didn't. Aye.
Okay, we have an aye. Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So we will move those two up and their term will be 2027, 3-year full voting term. Next, I'll take a motion for our alternates, and then if we can just clarify in the motion the terms for those folks.
Yep. Hold on. I'm writing it down. So that
Okay.
I can.
So I'll move the slate of alternates.
Which is Doug Cowie, Heather Dudley Tatum, and Emma Laham,
And Andy LaRoche.
and Andy LaRoche. Thank you.
And extending Patrick to 27.
Well,
Oh,
We
is
can
a
do that
separate thing?
separately. Let's do that
I-
separately.
yeah, so just to be clear, right now, there's only one person that's an alternate that has a current appointment slip that has a date on it. All of the other ones, we could put whatever we want. Not whatever we want, but we can stagger them.
So the suggestion that I had heard from Becky was Doug Cowie, 2025, Heather and Emma, 2026, and Andy, what was the suggestion for Andy? 27. Yeah, we'll do that separate because that's a modification of a current alternate. So would you like that to be your motion, Paul?
I thought we were still voting on did we vote the alternates?
No, that we
The
just want to
motion
clarify
has
the
to cover-
terms on the alternates. Yep,
Did we vote the alternates in? I missed
not
that.
yet.
No, that's
We are clarifying the terms.
Clarifying
We're
the
clarifying the terms before getting a
So-
final.
we could-
So,
We could,
I don't,
I thought we were doing that separate though.
no. Just
We're
the
going to do
one
Patrick
person is
separate because he's not up for. It's fun, but at least, hey, this feels disorganized, but it's more organized than it used
Okay.
to be. So we're making progress.
It's through 6:30, right? The 30th of June?
Yes.
6:30. Okay, Letty, would you like to roll out that motion? Give it a go.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to appoint Doug Cowie and Andy LaRoche through 6/30/2026.
7.
No, that's not what.
Oh, Doug's 25.
Why?
To allow for some staggering.
We already have. We,
We're losing 2 current alternates who are going up. So whatever Michelle's staggering was going to be is now a moot point.
I understand. We only have one person that has a date right now, and it's the 2025.
That's Patrick.
So it sounded like Doug and Andy wanted the longest terms, which would be 6/30/27.
What Becky requested was Doug to be 2025.
Who was the other person that you wanted to have the longest term, Becky?
Andy.
Just who do you want?
Andy LaRoche
And who's
Andy.
the other person?
Andy 27,
and Patrick Mark.
But that's a separate, so I.
Right, so
that's separate.
So that's the only one for 27.
Okay.
Andy 27, Doug 25, Heather 26, Emma 26. Can that be the motion? That's the motion. Okay. Do we have a second?
Sure.
Okay, we'll take a vote. John?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, and hopefully we will only have to do this massaging once, and we'll get everybody's terms
Because then we
worked
can
out.
just fill in those spots and keep the years.
Right, exactly.
Great.
Yes, we should only have to do this once. And then I will take a second motion to modify Patrick's term by reappointing him for a 2027 end date.
So moved.
Is there a second?
No.
I'll second it, and we'll take a vote. John?
Abstain.
Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
No.
And I'm an aye, so we have a 2-2 split. So
No, it's a
we'll have
2-1.
to. Oh, an abstain. A 2, were you an abstain?
One abstention pass.
It passes.
Pass.
Because it was 2 yeses and 1 no. Abstention doesn't count.
2, yes, 2, 1 abstain. Okay, so pass. All right, so we are done with conservation. Thank you, everyone. That process should be a little smoother in the future. We won't have to massage terms as much. And Becky, thank you very, very much for working with your group to make sure we could retain all candidates. That is a wonderful thing. And thank you to all 6 of these folks who are willing to step up and volunteer.
I just wanted to add that being part of the communications committee that this process was started, I endorse this process, having some regularity and continuity and streaming it, cleaning it all up. I think that's very important. Struggling through this first round is challenging.
It is.
And it certainly raised a lot of questions, but I endorse having this go forward.
Thank
So
you.
wanted to let you know.
Thank you. We appreciate that. All right, we are done with that. We will move over to regular business. And as usual, we will start with Karen and whatever business she has for us.
I'm gonna do the quick stuff first, and then I'll ask for money after.
Oh, okay.
So the tax deed for 339 Route 125 has been recorded. It has been returned from the Registry of Deeds
everyone.
and added to our insurance. So that is now a town-owned property.
So remind me the backstory on that.
That was a tax deed, and the
Tax
person had
deed.
passed. Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So that is now town property.
Correct.
Okay. And is there any action that is required by us on that?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I have your MS 535 as prepared by the auditors for audit year 2023. So this is just a report of actual expenditures versus voted appropriations and revenues.
Okay. And this, we wait to sign this till after the audit to make sure everything is accurate?
Correct. So that has been prepared by the auditors and submitted to DRA. It just needs your approval here.
Okay.
All of the closing entries for 2023 have been entered, and I'm waiting on the draft report from Plotzik now.
Okay. And do we need to vote on this?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll take a motion to approve the MS 535.
Can I see it?
Sure.
Sure I know what I'm voting on.
Motion.
It's just sort of our final financial information for the last calendar year.
I
John,
don't know if you
would
heard that I,
make a motion?
Okay.
So we have a motion on the
Yep.
table.
Second.
I'll just give you a minute if you need it. Any questions for Karen? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to sign the MS 535. We'll take a roll call vote. John?
aye.
Paul?
Aye. It appears balanced.
Oh, great. We like when it's balanced. Letty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so we will sign that. If you can just send it back this direction when you're done with it. And the Fuller property, we already took care of at the beginning.
Yes.
Right, so that's all set. And this second item here is now moot point. Yep. Okay.
Signed twice.
Paul liked this so much, he signed twice. Okay. All right, what else do you have for us?
We have, so last year we did some moisture readings and we tested the humidity levels.
Can we have quiet in the audience, please? Thank you.
The police department after some flooding had occurred.
Right.
We had some initial estimates done after that time, which would need to be updated. And since that time, we have had some employees present with some symptoms that can be traced back to water and mold issues. So we had
I would presume mostly respiratory, allergic, asthma type of symptoms.
correct.
Okay.
We've had a firm come in and do some air testing. They did those tests in the squad room, in the supervisor's office. They did an air test outside and also in the Sanborn room. So we have tested positive for various numbers of different mold spores that would also present to these symptoms. So what I'm asking is to start that process to do the remediation in the basement. And the reason I would ask to do that now is to move forward in this process, and then if the potential comes up to sell this building, we would be able to sell it at a higher sale price with all of those issues being resolved. So those issues would come in two parts. It would be to remediate the water damage, right? Because the water table sits right under the slab of the basement foundation. So last year's, so these prices will need to be adjusted due to inflation, so I'm giving you sort of bottom estimates here. But the water problem is $20,500. In addition to that cost, which is just the sump drains and the perimeter, it's the perimeter drains and the sump pumps that would go with it. It would also require the drywall that is existing to be removed and to be replaced with a PVC product so that it would not be wicking moisture or continuing to wick up moisture.
So when you say remediation, this is really remediation and prevention of
So it would be-
future damage.
So removing all of the mold that exists today and then preventing it from reoccurring by removing the water as much as possible and then replacing it with PVC base and MR board. Not included in this quote is the sort of interior finish work that would need to be done, the landscaping, and then it also, we're not sure how thick the slab is, the basement slab. So if it's thicker than 5 inches, that will incur an additional cost. So all of these things all in is potentially about $50,000.
And what funding source are you thinking is the best option
So
if we were going to do a project like this?
long-range planning, I would request this to come out of ARPA funds. The reason for that was there is a capital reserve fund for maintenance of town-owned buildings, which does have a healthy fund balance right now. The fund balance in that account is $133,000. In addition to this project that would need to occur downstairs, the board is also aware that the windows at the BRC need to be replaced, and also the furnace at the BRC would need to be replaced. So I would ask for this remediation to come out of ARPA funding, and then use either ARPA funds or the capital reserve fund for the repairs at the BRC. And the goal would be to leave the capital reserve fund with a healthy balance so that we do not have to ask for a warrant article in '25 to replenish this fund. So the long-range thought is to use these other buckets of money that we have available to us and try to reduce the number of warrant articles as much as possible in '25, knowing that we're going to be going for a bond for a new building. Also, if you are, I would like to move forward with these repairs as quickly as possible, because even best case scenario, we're looking at a 2025 bond and then a year of construction. So we're still 18 months out with the officers in that environment, which is not healthy for any of them.
Do we have insurance? What are insurance?
We have insurance, but this is not, this is exclusive out of side of insurance, right? So mold is not considered part of your insurance. If there was an active flood that was happening, they would cover the repairs, but they're not going to retroactively fix water damage problem.
And do we have active plans in place to have the rec projects come before us in this calendar year?
On Thursday, well, we've been working on it. We've had a hard time getting the 3 quotes that are necessary because of the price point of the windows. But Kip is meeting with a vendor on Thursday for the windows. This past year, we've had to replace the belt on the furnace at the BRC, I believe 3 or 4 times, and last year the blower motor failed twice. So that's something that is just continually needing repairs.
And is that also being priced out?
Kip is working on that as well,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
No, the windows were on the capital improvement plan. Was the furnace as well?
The windows and the furnace at the BRC have been included in the CIP, and I think they've been on there for 2 years.
Okay. So this is something.
And just like we asked the other folks, what I'm hearing you say is if this wasn't approved out of ARPA, this would go out of that capital fund, but the downstream effect of that is we might have to ask the voters to replenish some funds into that fund.
Correct.
Next year. Okay. Questions or thoughts?
You're not going to
on
like
this?
it, Karen.
Which budget do you want to take it out of?
I don't want to take that out of any budget for now, so that it can get started. I would like to approve it out of the Town of Brentwood repairs and maintenance line, which I understand will put that line in a negative.
What's in that line right now?
$5,000.
But that is the line for this building. But then you can start tomorrow. And then if we need to move that charge to if we decide later that we want to use ARPA funds or building funds, we can do that later, right? But we can't undo taking things out of the maintenance fund.
That's correct.
That is
right?
correct,
Right.
because you can only deposit into the capital reserve fund with a town meeting vote.
But we can undo applying it to this line.
We could, or I could put it in a due from trustees of the trust funds, which would be paying it out of the general fund, waiting for your vote on the ARPA funds, and then not withdrawing it from the capital reserve fund
Like an
until I
IOU.
actually know.
Like on the assumption it would come out of capital
Right.
unless we vote on ARPA. I think that's to your point. It's the same end result.
Yeah, except we can see one of them, right? Yeah, we can't
Yes,
see.
and I don't like to
I
see
know.
the negative, but
I
I'm
know.
okay as long as you want to move
but
forward.
yeah.
Talking
Is
about it in
that,
public
do you think
hearing.
there's a better line where this would live? Or would that be the most, if it was going to live on a current budget line, is that the most appropriate one?
If it's going to live in the operating budget, that would be the most appropriate place for it to live, yes.
Okay. And if you were going to do it as like an IOU, that would be
Then-
outside of the budget?
That would be outside of the operating budget. It would show up in the general ledger as a due from. So it appears as a liability.
Right.
And then,
What was the dollar figure on this again? I'm sorry.
It's
What was
about
that, John?
50,000.
oh, okay.
How much?
50.
Okay.
And
That's to start. So this doesn't include studs. This doesn't include insulation. It doesn't include, right? I mean,
They
once you
want
open up
insulation?
once you open up a wall, who knows what happens?
those police
But
officers, they're
we
so
have to
needy.
start somewhere.
Oh, that's,
Insulation.
yeah, that's terrifying. My
So this
I
is not the full
my
cost?
camera's on, but I can't. You guys
Well, I
can't
mean-
see
Yeah,
me.
I don't know why we can't see you, John.
This is the full cost for what we can see as it exists today. But once you pull up the drywall, I mean, that was put in the 80s, so who knows what is back there.
I promise that the insulation is.
Okay,
also
John,
full
you're
of
back
holes.
on.
I probably promise that the studs probably are too. I don't really know.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? So if we did it on your way and it was an IOU for capital reserve, if we then decided to pay that out of ARPA, it would just disappear as,
Right, the
An
liability would
obligation.
be,
okay.
yes,
So either way is totally appropriate
yes.
financially. Okay.
But either way, yes, I would like approval to move forward in some way, shape, or form today.
And given that this is a known issue with the building, if we do get approval to build a new building and we were to sell this building, we would potentially have to decrease the selling price
if you left it the way that it
Because
was.
it would be a
Or do
Yes.
this
known
anyway
building.
Right.
before we could sell.
It would be a known building
Right, so it's a
liability.
known issue that you would have to disclose on your, I don't know what that's called.
Right, yeah, your buyer's
But, yep.
disclosure or whatever, seller's disclosure. Okay. Okay. All right, what would the board like to do, or what are further thoughts or discussion on this topic? And we also can pause it and put it into the same ARPA discussion bucket that we've done with these other projects. But what I'm hearing from you is you'd rather go sooner, but that would bump it to next month when we discuss all the other
I would make a
projects.
motion that we apply it to the line, whatever, kind of the town building repairs and maintenance line, with the understanding that we will discuss it as part of the ARPA bucket when that discussion comes around.
And if we deny doing it by ARPA, we would do it on capital reserve?
We could have that discussion.
And that we
then.
could do, right? If we put it on the line item, we can then withdraw it from capital reserve after the fact?
We can,
Okay.
we can do anything.
I don't really understand, to be honest. Why don't we either make a decision that it's ARPA, which we can decide at that August
Yep.
20th meeting, and if it needs to be done now, we can just do it out of capital reserve, because that's where really it belongs. I mean, ultimately, if we're gonna short the capital reserve, because it's not gonna be paid by ARPA, then, the voters need to know that and make a decision to vote up the capital
Right.
reserve.
Yeah, one way or another.
So.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, there's just
But-
two, it's
but-
just two different ways.
Well,
to-
I know, but taking
to
it.
get it started.
But taking it out of that line, it gives me cause for concern that, it doesn't ultimately get back to the voters if it comes out of capital reserve, which is what the
Well,
voters
either
want.
way, the voters have authorized us to spend that money, right? We have that $133,000. So we have authorization to spend that money. This is just, are we going to backfill that money and then not have to go to the voters to ask to replenish it? So it's just moving money around and deciding which bucket we want to do it out of.
I'm not a fan of that.
But my preference would be to put it in the liability account until you can have the ARPA discussion.
Okay. Okay. So we have sort of a difference of opinion. So there was one motion to put it in the budget line. Do we have a second for that? I'm not hearing a second for that. Do we have an alternate motion?
We can take it out of capital reserve contingent upon,
So the IOU liability, as
What we-
Karen suggested.
what we decide.
Okay, so we have a motion for that. Is there a second for that? Anyone interested in seconding that? John, are you interested in seconding that?
I'm going to go ahead and defer to you all in the room over there working with this out.
Thanks, John.
You got it.
We got a thumbs up on that. I will second that if there's no other second. And we will take a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
No.
And I'm an aye, so we'll move forward with the IOU for the capital fund, and then we will put that into the discussion bucket for our ARPA discussion.
Thank you.
Is there anything that we need to do before we can remediate to make that space safe downstairs and in that room?
Well, they have their air purifier,
We have,
right?
yep, we have 3 up here, 2 downstairs that are running continuously. We change the filters every quarter. But that is something I will ask Kip in what we can do in
Because
the
even with the
meantime.
air filters running, they still tested positive
Yep.
for all of them.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Hence the need for remediation.
This room or that room?
We tested the Sanborn room.
And you said there was different results upstairs and downstairs?
Yes, oddly enough, the same,
Mold type?
mold types do not exist upstairs and downstairs, as
That is-
oddly unbalanced as our,
I think that makes
HVAC
sense, though. There's
systems.
such different moisture environments upstairs and downstairs.
to some degree, I guess I thought they would have been the same spores upstairs and down, just to different degrees. I would have expected higher levels downstairs than up here, but the same things.
Different
but
flavor.
it's
Is the thought that
different.
remediating downstairs will reduce the mold up here as well? Because obviously, we're not remediating anything up here,
Correct.
hopefully.
I would imagine reading it.
Let's hope so.
Will help.
Let's hope so. All right, anything else that you have for us?
Not for public, I think this is John's request.
Okay, we will turn to that in just a minute. So we will go to regular business and we will start with John. And John, Karen just handed me the estimate from BWP and Sons Excavation for $52,150, which I'm assuming is what you referred to earlier. So I will let you start with that if you'd like.
Yep. So this is the I had worked with Andy and Kip to try to get an amount, a specific amount, so that we could put a hard tennis court, two tennis courts together at that Olson area field, which we've all discussed several times here, but also on the rec board. The reason this is such an interesting and kind of exciting new opportunity for the town is, number one, we've been asked multiple times from multiple folks about getting pickleball all set up for the town. There are significant revenue generation opportunities, and we anticipate that the costs incurred by the town would be offset by the revenue generated from pickleball and other activities that this investment would allow us to make. And yeah, that's this does not include lines or fencing. So the fencing lines would obviously not be very much, but the fencing will likely add 50% more to the quote, just guessing.
And John, what is the rec board's suggestion about how to request funding for this?
We had talked about doing it 50-50, ARPA and impact fees.
And is there a specific amount that's being requested? Is the initial amount just this quote of about 52,000, or are you increasing the quote?
50%. It would be 50% of this quote and 50% of the fencing quote, which we don't have. We're working on getting that. We don't have that in here.
Okay, so we would deal with that later potentially.
This is the big piece that would enable us to have pickleball, right? So that's what we're trying to achieve. Right?
Okay. And same question that I asked other folks: if ARPA were to be denied for this, what alternate funding sources are there for this?
There aren't. So if we want to try to get a revenue generation opportunity, this is we don't have another means of supporting this particular project.
What's the impact fee?
67,000.
Is there?
There's a sticky note that says
Oh yeah,
that.
okay.
I don't know that off the top.
67 impact. Is some of the rec impact fees already assigned to other projects?
I think that Andy felt more comfortable making sure that we had some contingent funds remaining in that. And so if we're going to use, let's say we use 40 for this project, it wouldn't leave a whole lot for other projects that or improvements that may need to be made around the rec, namely the snack shack needs to be updated. We're still working on the plan for the bathrooms, still working on plans for the kitchen area, I believe. There are a handful of other things that are happening at the rec. I can't speak to all of them, but basically the short answer is yes, there are other potential projects, but this would allocate a pretty good proportion of them, inclusive of the ARPA funds.
Okay. So the ask for the ARPA discussion that we have next month is around 42,000 or so?
Yeah, we anticipate probably closer to like 35 to 40. Yeah.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board?
Well, the proposal says 2 tennis courts. Is there pickleball too?
I think you can use one tennis court for 2 pickleball courts, if I understand correctly.
That's correct. Paul, tennis, pickleball, just, that's exactly it. You use you get 2 pickleball courts per 1 tennis court.
So could this be used for both tennis and pickleball?
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh,
Not at the
that's
same
the,
time.
that's,
Well,
that
not
is
at the same
100%
time, we
the
hear that, Eve.
purpose. Yeah, that's 100% the purpose of this. Not, you could theoretically have 1 tennis game and 2 pickleball games
at the
going
same time. Okay.
simultaneously.
Okay, all right. So this will go into that ARPA discussion for next month. Any other board questions or concerns for John on this?
Did you look to see if there are any grants?
No, I did not.
I don't know if anyone on the rec committee has looked into that or if you've talked
No,
to the chair.
it's just another one of those places where I know
Yeah.
at one point we had talked about hiring a part-time
Yeah,
grant writer.
sure.
I mean, we've over and over again talked about hiring someone to look at doing some grant research and writing for us. I mean, that would be really nice if we could get that off the ground. I know that we have some of the funds. Karen, is that, and that's economic development where we put those funds last year?
Yes,
So is that a discussion we're going to have during budget season?
yes.
Yes, okay. All right, any other comments you have, John, about that?
Well, just to be clear, I think we have those funds now. If
You
we were to find someone who was able to do that, I don't know if that's like
for
a
the
few thing.
grant writer.
Yeah, a grant researcher and writer. I mean, we don't have a ton of money, but we have something that can at least get a program off the ground.
Yes, that was included in this year's budget.
Have we ever posted looking for that, or, I mean, how would we find that person?
I think it depends on the opportunity, right? Because Chief Bird has used a grant writer, but that person is specific to fire grants and EMPG grants, so I think it depends on our specific need. We've used grant writers that have helped us with different emergency management grants, but again, those are people that are specific to that field.
Mhm.
So I think it depends on which department has the need at that time, on how we would post and look for that person.
Okay.
Okay. So should we bump that to a upcoming meeting to discuss exactly what kind of grant writing help we're looking for and think about making a job posting?
Sure.
Let's do that. Okay. John, do you have any other board business or board updates?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. Paul?
Yeah, just to follow with conservation, we again, the meetings have been going well. We met just a week or so last Wednesday, and we did have a couple of presentations, one on the Prescott project over on Route 27, because there were some additional concerns with regard to intrusion into the wetlands, which we deferred to another meeting to get their lead principal engineer to speak with us so we could consider waiving any concerns on that. We had a presentation by MTI Poly over on Pine Road with regard to their additional building project, and they're putting a substantial addition onto their property, which potentially would have some wetland concern and water concern, but mitigated by the project and the storm control that they've put in over, that they're talking about putting in. So it looked like that was a pretty good project, and that was going to move forward to the planning board without any, at least concern from conservation at this point. So other than that, I don't know, is there anything else?
We're redoing the handbook.
Yeah.
I mentioned
think we lost him.
Karen would go for review, and a number of other projects.
Right.
Busy.
Yep. I think those were the two main presentations that we had at the last meeting with two important projects. And it's sort of in coordination with planning board, so that was a nice thing as well.
I don't like seeing myself.
I know, and we're flipped. It's
And
very,
it makes me
it's very weird.
dizzy.
Yeah, I think we lost John's connection, so.
That's it.
Anything else, Paul?
That's it.
Okay, Letty, board updates or board business?
We haven't had another planning board meeting because of July 4th. But since our last meeting, we've received many mails from residents of Mohawk Lane with concerns. I apologize. Apparently, some people thought that my enthusiasm was equal to intent. My intent was never to change the name of a road that has been here for 20 years. I did do some research. So there's 4 total road names in that development. 3 of them are from that list of historical members of Brentwood. That is the one that is not. I did reach out to the developer. I haven't heard back yet. That's it for that one.
So just a little curiosity, we don't exactly know how that name came to be chosen.
Especially since the other 3, like I said, were off that list. So I don't know where, we don't know where, I haven't figured out where it came from.
And this initial concern came from a discussion at planning board to make sure that
There was a
we're-
discussion at planning board about how roads are being named, which names are being used, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I also stopped by the Historical Society when they had their open house. They didn't know either.
Okay. If anyone knows out of interest how Mohawk Lane got its name,
Yes,
shoot an email to one of us. Becky, do you know?
Typically, the process is when a developer wants to put in roads, they have the ability to name a percentage of the roads their choice and offer the town request that some of the roads be named by the town.
The town gets to name all the roads.
It's to name all.
Yeah.
The select board.
I think it's the
approves all
I mean, I
roads.
think, like, for example, when the Mill Road development, I think we accepted 1 or 2 of their suggestions because we thought they were good and appropriate, and then we changed a few. So, yeah. Sure.
We suggested a couple, and
Yep.
then put Sunset Lane on.
Sure, sure.
So it's
Yeah.
a split, it's a division.
Yep. And I'm assuming the
But
next
they all
time.
get approved by the select.
Correct.
Yeah,
And I'm
we're not
assuming the next
required.
time this comes up, we'll follow that same
Oh,
process.
the next time this comes up, there's gonna be so.
Karen,
much
do you have anything to add about that?
No, I was just gonna, Sunset Lane was a request of the Hibbards,
Yeah.
who was the original campground
Yeah.
owners.
Great.
Just to follow on that, I mean, there were a lot of letters that were
Mhm.
issued to the board, and I just want to, express appreciation for people writing in and expressing their concern. It seemed as though people want
Yeah.
to retain Mohawk as the name of their street.
Yeah, nobody wants to change their address on all of their documents and everything.
Again.
And to
I-
remind the public that when something is discussed at the board, a lot of times it's just discussed. There was no vote, there was no motion. So we're happy to take your emails and concerns, but if there's no motion on the table, then there's nothing being decided.
It's just,
I think the concern was that might happen.
Yeah,
at
yeah,
some
no, I
point
think there
down
was
the
some
road.
confusion about the intent, and so Letty has now clarified that.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I don't
Other
think-
updates
I
you
don't
have?
think there's been any other meetings. I'm looking at a calendar. I don't think there's been any other meetings since our last meeting. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And updates that I have, so next Monday, the 22nd, BudCom will be doing our site walk at the rec. In August, we will be doing, I think Highway is the next on the list. So the public is welcome to attend those. We do meet at the site. We don't meet here at the town offices. So Monday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. is our next site walk, and that will be rec. And then on Tuesday, July 23rd is our next municipal building meeting that we have about once a month. That's at 1:30 p.m. here in this room. As he has been doing, John Ventura had the public session yesterday. And my understanding was it was just a small handful of people. It was a relatively short meeting, but he continues to want to get any feedback that the public has and answer any questions that the public has about the process of considering building a new building. So stay tuned, and please feel free to either email the chief, email the town offices, Karen, one of us, if you have questions or concerns, or anybody on that municipal building committee. We would be more than happy to pass those along and make sure we get you answers to any questions that you have. I think those are the only updates I have for the meetings that I go to. Any other board business before we go to non-public for personnel? Seeing none, we'll go to non-public. I think we did lose John. Maybe we lost a connection. we need to take a vote to go into non-public for personnel.
Do you need the letter or just? Can I just say
Usually we
make a
just say
motion?
personnel.
Motion.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll take a roll call vote. Paul?
Aye.
Letty?
Aye.
Aye, so we'll go to non-public for personnel
Letty made
at
the motion,
8:10.
Paul seconded. Is
Sure.
that correct?
Thank you, everyone. See you later. What is this screen? Oh, this is a different meeting, right? So we don't want that. Karen. Oh, did it time out?
Not that it would have mattered. Not that it would have mattered if